Welcome to our summer session. Our summer curriculum is titled 10-10-10, and it's actually named after a book of the same name, 10-10-10. I don't know if y'all can see me or not. Here we go. So 10-10-10, it's a decision-making tool. And we're going to be basically talking about it all summer, about how to use the tool, examples of what to do with different situations. We're going to have a great summer together. Today, though, we're going to have an amazing guest speaker in about 10 minutes who's going to be talking to you guys about dignity in parenting. But first, we have a survey for you guys to do. So while I'm still talking, make sure you have pen and paper because it is class. So I'm going to keep talking and give you a few minutes to get some pen and paper. Also, attendance will be the same. You'll put it in the chat box, first name, last name, and email address. But while I'm doing announcements, go ahead and grab paper and a pen or pencil for the inventory. So you know what? Let me talk about Pregnancy Aid Clinic, just in case we have some new students here that aren't familiar with what we do. Pregnancy Aid Clinic is a local nonprofit. We have 2 clinics, one in Roswell, one in Forest Park, and we exist to help people who have unexpected pregnancies. Everything that our clinics do is at no cost to clients. So even if it doesn't, even if it has nothing to do with your current situation, maybe you have friends and family that may need us. So we offer free pregnancy tests, free ultrasounds if somebody qualifies. We do mentoring. And of course, we have the educational classes and diapers and wipes. Once things kind of get a little more stable, we'll have the boutique as an option again, but right now that's on hold. We talked about classes, and let's go ahead and go on to the self-esteem inventory. So I'm going to read through all 18. It's also on your screen, so anybody that wants to go ahead, you certainly can. But go ahead and put today's date on it because we're going to do the self-esteem inventory at the end of the summer semester as well to see if there was a difference. So there's 18 statements. I won't call them questions, but there's 18 statements, and they are all true, false. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and read them aloud. But this is why you needed your pen and paper. So, statement number 1, true or false? I can admit a mistake. True or false? There's no right or wrong answers, just true or false. Question 2, I can reach out to people I don't know. I can reach out to people I don't know. Question 3, I maintain my own values even when others don't approve them. I maintain my own values even when others don't approve of them. Question 4, I can accept a compliment without feeling uncomfortable. Is that true or false? I can accept a compliment without feeling uncomfortable. Is that true or false about you? Question 5, I can be myself around other people. True or false? Question number 6, I accept myself with all of my faults and weaknesses. True or false? All right. Question 7. I can tell you my strengths. Is that true or false? Can you tell someone your strengths? Question 8. I can feel joy for someone else's achievements. True or false? Remember, there's no right or wrong answers. This is just how you feel about yourself at this very moment. Question 9. I do not compare myself with others. True or false? I do not compare myself with others. 10. I have peace of mind. I have peace of mind. True or false? Number 11. I believe I am unique. True or false? I believe I am unique. 12. I can let my inner child out and play without worrying about what others will think. I can let my inner child out and play without worrying about what others will think. 13. I accept differences in others without judging them. True or false? I accept differences in others without judging them. Just 5 more left, y'all. 14. I affirm myself and others. I affirm myself and others. Affirm, think about affirmation. Basically, it's positive words. I affirm myself and others. 15. I openly express my love for others. True or false? Can you openly express your love for others? 16. I love myself. True or false? 17. I accept all of my feelings. Good or bad? Can you accept all of your feelings? And finally, final question, 18. I enjoy my own company. I am comfortable being alone. True or false? All right, I'm gonna leave that up on the screen for a little bit. Once again, there's no right or wrong answers. This is just how you feel about yourself in the moment. When you're ready, you can count up your true answers and count up your false answers. And basically, the higher number of trues, the higher your self-esteem is, okay? The higher number of trues, the higher your self-esteem is. All right, so now I'm going to introduce my amazing guest facilitator. Many of you have actually dealt with her before. Miss Naya Abernathy is the CEO and founder of the Dignity Effect. It basically is sharing dignity with the world and the fact that everyone has dignity, inherent dignity in themselves. She is an amazing soul, an amazing light, and I'm so grateful that you all get to experience another class with her. Let me pull up her. Yeah, let me pull up her items. All right, Miss Naya, let me see if I can, yep, there we are. So I am gonna turn off my camera and go on mute. I love you guys, you are worthy. Miss Naya, just tell me whenever you want me to go to the next slide.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Courtney, for that super sweet introduction. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So glad you are joining me today. This class is called The Dignity Effect in Parenting. And as Courtney said, I do have a company called The Dignity Effect. And the goal is really to encourage social emotional living, particularly among families. And I also do unity oriented peacemaking. And so the idea of dignity really does start within the individual. And then the ripple effect of dignity is that when you realize dignity within yourself, that you have worth and value that is intrinsic, that cannot be taken away. When you realize that within yourself, you will see it in other people as well. And so I really work with families to help them, whoever the individual is, whether it's the parent or the child in the family or another member of the family, see it within themselves so that they can bring the reality of dignity into their family unit. And so we're going to talk about how you do that in parenting today. You can go to the next slide, Courtney. Courtney is going to be my awesome Vanna White today while we're talking about this. So I want to just do some level setting before we hop in. This is not a parenting style. There's lots of ways that you can parent. There's lots of styles and kind of ways of thinking around parenting that you can adhere to. This is not that specific. It's much more high level. And I think it's much more universal than some parenting styles that you might run into. And this is also not how to do parenting right. You're never going to get it 100% right. You are a human who is learning how to parent who you have right now. And in 2 years, you will be different and they will be different. And you might look back on this time and think, man, I wish I had done this differently. But I'm a strong believer that we are all doing the best that we can with what we have right now in the moment. And so this kind of focus that I'm going to help encourage you in really lets you allows you to be where you are right now and to parent from that place. And it's not so focused on you getting or arriving at a place in parenting. This is really about asking yourself, who do you want to be as a parent? Do you want to look exactly like your parents? Are there aspects of relationships that you have had in the past or that you currently have that you want to bring into your parenting? This is really a chance for you to take some principles and then draw from that and build a parenting relationship that you're desiring to have. And how do you want to relate to your children? There are ways that you can relate to your children depending, again, on kind of where you cast your focus and cast your vision for parenting. So that's what we're really going to talk about today. So on the next slide, we are going to dive into this first view of parenting called fear and compliance. So fear and compliance is a viewpoint of parenting that I think is very common. I know that I'm a Black woman, and I know that it is very common in the Black community to parent from this posture. So in the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about what exactly that is. So when we're talking about fear and compliance, it really is compliance parenting, or the compliance, when the goal of your parenting is for the child to comply, it's about you getting to a place where you say something and your child does it, period. That's it. You're able to give an instruction, give a command, give any kind of communication, and they immediately respond. That's kind of the goal. And it also says that I am the authority and my child is the subservient. So it kind of throws all the control on you, and then you take that control and try to control your child. This is often driven by fear. So the reason why we are parenting for compliance is a lot of survival. You need to comply in the home so that you comply out, so that you comply outside of the home, so that you are successful, so that you're healthy, so that you are looked at as a model citizen, so that you can live. I mean, if we're really going to be honest, like, we are hoping that our Black and brown children will comply when they go out into the world, so that people empower people and in places of influence are not making laws or doing actions against them to hurt, harm, or kill them. So there is this real sense of like, you have to comply, and that's it. That's the only thing that matters, is that you just do what you're told so that you can stay safe. And so this also kind of, again, puts a lot of pressure on you as a parent to parent perfectly, because it says if I get it right, then my kids will get it right every time. And if you have children, multiple children, or if you've dealt with anybody else's children, if you babysat, if you've worked with kids, you know that that is not how this works. If you do everything perfectly, that does not equal a fully compliant child, because kids are fully human all by themselves completely. They're not adult humans, but they're fully humans, and they have full dignity just like you do. They are fully worthy. They have full value. It is fully intrinsic, and it cannot be taken away. And a lot of times we look at children, the old, which it's not being said as much anymore, but it's still being said. The thought that children are to be seen and not heard means that children don't have a voice, that they don't have anything to say, that that childhood can't be expressed in the midst of adults. But that's not the reality. And children really do have a lot of things to say. And if you listen, you can actually learn some things. And so switching your thinking about who your child is and what they bring to the table as themselves, as their full personality, their full personality is embodied in this 2-year-old or 4-year-old or 5-year-old or 10-year-old. Their personality is there. It continues to develop, and their brains continue to develop, but who they are, their likes, their dislikes, their temperament, their passions, I believe that those things are in them from birth. And then we have this amazing opportunity to help cultivate those things, not create them. They're already there, but to bring them out, to cultivate them, and to encourage our kids to really live fully into their dignity. This compliance driven by fear model doesn't encourage you to trust your parental intuition. You know your kids, right? You know the things that they're sensitive to. You know the things that break their spirit. You know the things that will encourage them, the things that will help them really navigate the world well. And where you don't know, it's perfectly fine for you to say, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn about my child, as opposed to saying, I'm an adult. I know what you do and don't need to do. It doesn't matter how you feel or who you are. This is just how it works for everybody. If you have multiple kids, you know you have multiple personalities. And so really leaning into and trusting that you are the right parent for the children that you have been given, this is where your parental intuition can start to grow as you lean into that reality and say, and continue to listen to what your children are telling you, whether it's verbally or if they're communicating it to you in other ways. Fear and compliance also does not encourage your kids in the natural curiosity that they have on the inside of them. If you take your kid outside to your backyard, to your front yard, on a trail, to a park, they're going to start exploring because they're naturally curious. They're going to ask. I have a 3.5-year-old at home, and she asks 1,000 questions every day because she is so curious about the world around her. She wants to understand how it works, and she wants to get context for how she's to speak and to move in the world and in relationships. And when we parent from a place of just wanting them to comply because I'm afraid if you don't comply, what is going to happen, it really puts out the fire of that curiosity that encourages your kids really in who they are. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to talk about what an alternate way to approach parenting is. When we talk about hope and heart. And I'm hoping that as we move through this starts to feel really good to you. And even if you say, man, I wish I was parented like that, I want to encourage you that you might not be able to go back and change how you were parented, but you can today take small, easy steps to change the way that you parent your children. And that is going to make a huge difference for your kids. And we'll talk a little bit later about how that really can make a huge difference for you as well. So we'll go to the next slide and dive into this one. So when we talk about hope and heart, and we're going to put that against or versus the fear and compliance, this primarily focuses on the heart of the child versus the behavior. So this is not, the goal of this is not to make sure that your child behaves, but it's to make sure that your child comes into a place of being wholehearted. And behavior is a part of that, but it's not the main focus of being wholehearted. And it allows you to show up with your whole heart. Now, some of you might think, I don't even know if I'm engaged with my whole heart, and that's totally fine. Show up with as much of your heart as you have. And some of you may say, my heart is in pieces. Bring your pieces into your parenting. It is okay. This compliance goal is driven by hope. And the hope that I want to give you is that even if you come into parenting with your heart in pieces, that the process of parenting with your kids can help you start to put those pieces together. And you might be surprised what pieces your children really help you put back together as a part of your entire process. And this does not mean that you don't correct behavior. Obviously, we don't want our kids to be completely wild and off the chain. That's not helpful, and it's not good for them. It doesn't encourage them to thrive, to just let behavior be whatever you want it to be. But we move from focusing on punishment into a place of discipline. And the root word of discipline is disciple. So we're talking about responding to their behavior from a place of guidance as opposed to a place of punishment. And if we're looking at our child's behavior and saying, how can I guide you through this so that you can get to a place of making good choices for yourself and for people around you, then you start looking at answering their behavior with discipline versus punishment. They may still need to sit in timeout. They may still have consequences. I don't always give my daughter consequences. Sometimes we talk through it. We do a lot of talking. But she does get consequences as well. And her personality is such that is enough for her to feel, to really feel the results of her behavior. And sometimes the natural consequences that come along with it is enough too. Again, navigating that is really about you learning your child and learning how you're comfortable navigating through parenting around the heart. So this really encourages your relationship with your child to thrive. So you are looking at, again, looking at your children as being a whole person where they are right now and who they are becoming. Because remember, at some point, your children are not going to be children anymore. They will be adults. And when you think about having a relationship with your child as when they are adults, there are things that you can do now to lay a foundation for that that's really healthy. You can throw a me too in the chat box, but how many of you have experienced with your own parents or other adults in your life who knew you as a child who really struggled with relating to you as an adult and allowing you to come fully into your adulthood? And maybe when you were in your 20s or your 30s, they still saw you as a child and didn't really see you as a full adult who has full ownership over their own life, over their own bodies, over their own choices. We really want to set our kids up when we're talking about this hope and heart and honoring dignity in parenting. We want to set our kids up to have a relationship with us when they're adults that really does have a feel of friendship. And so that has to be a part of your parenting, knowing that there's still very good and healthy boundaries that you have with your child because they are a child and there are choices that they can't make and things that you're helping them to grow into. But when there's some friendship woven into that, that's not a bad thing. A lot of us have heard, I'm your parent, I'm not your friend. While primarily, yes, you are their parents, having friendship be a heart of that relationship is key to moving into a space of being the parent of an adult child, because your relationship, when it's healthy, is going to look much more like, it can look much more like friendship when the child is an adult. I hope that makes sense what I was saying. If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat and Courtney can let me know. Again, reframing punishment to discipline, right? Still addressing behavior, but with a different motivation and with a different goal. And you can allow yourself to be an imperfect parent. Again, you're never going to be perfect. Take the weight off, take that expectation off of yourself, relax, exhale. It's okay that you're not going to be a perfect parent, but when you are seeking to really parent the heart of your child versus parenting and forcing the behavior of your child, what's really beneficial for them is to see you being imperfect, because then they will know that it's okay for them to make mistakes. And some of the things that we deal with, especially as women, like anxiety, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, all of those things, we can help to lessen that when we show up wholeheartedly and say, hey, mommy made a mistake. Or when we apologize to our kids and own that the choice that we made, or the thing that we said, or the thing that we didn't say, wasn't the best choice, and I want to make a different choice with you. So these are the some of my points and keys when we talk about parenting out of a place of hope that's focused on your child's heart versus just their behavior. So next slide, we'll talk a little bit about what are some of the results and the resources, which we did mention those, but I'll kind of get into that a little bit more. So on the next slide, we'll hit results and I'll give you some resources and leave a little bit of time for some Q&A. So some of the results that you could, now I'm not selling you like a product with a money back guarantee, 100% satisfaction rate. This is what could come up. Again, you and your child are people, you're individuals. And so some of these things may come up in waves. It may take a little bit longer for you to get to some of these points. It kind of depends on what the relationship has been like prior to you trying to put some of these things into place. But know that what happens when you start to engage your child's heart is that there's a place in the relationship that starts to open up that is not open when you're parenting just for compliance. So space for mistakes, right? Where your child can feel free to come in to admit mistakes to you because they're not afraid of punishment. They might understand that, hey, I'm probably going to get a consequence, but punishment and discipline feel very different. And a child, even a small child, knows that. And so when you start to parent the heart, they will begin to understand that the desire is for them to be the best version of themselves, not just to not embarrass you or to always do everything right. So them really growing to a space of being the best version of themselves, being the focus, does help give the space for mistakes, for them to be curious, ask you questions, and really build actual relationship, and to really grow with you. If you don't have teenagers, I don't have teenagers, but my best friend has a teenager, and it is a whole different world. And if you can lay these foundations now, then as you navigate teenagehood with your children, it can look very different than maybe some of us have even experienced. It can really support your kids being more confident in who they are as they go to school, as they go to places of worship, as they are engaged with neighbors and people in the community. They just go out more confident because they know at home they don't have to perform. They can take their mask off. They can be who they are fully. And so when they go out into the world, they're able and confident in doing that. And then there's more comfort in the relationship that they have with you. And so there isn't always this battling that has to happen. They can just come and just be in relationship with you. One of the things that I do with my 3-year-old right now that I feel like is really helping set up some of these things is I give space to play with her. She asks me to play. It can be very easy for me to say, I don't have time. I need to do the dishes. I have to do this thing for work. I have a 5-month-old at home, so I got to help your baby brother. I'm tired. I could give 1,000 reasons to always say no to her when she asks if I want to play. However, I know that if I say yes, even if it's only sometimes right now, when I say yes, that's building some trust and some expectation that our relationship is not just about do this thing, it's time for lunch, you need to pick up your toys, go to the bathroom, it's time for your bath. Our relationship also has this aspect of fun and joy and us enjoying each other in the parent-child role. And so that's something very simple that I'll encourage you to do if you're not doing that, to make space to say yes when your child invites you into their world and they want to play with you. It's a beautiful invitation from them. And I would definitely say to make sure you don't always say no. Doing your own hard work and modeling healing. So like I said, as you kind of bring your whole heart to the table, you might find that you've got some cracks or it's in pieces or it's still really hurting. And as you start doing that work, whether it's reaching out to Courtney when you're having a hard day, or if you have access to things like therapy, whether it's online therapy, virtual therapy, group therapy, there are lots of therapists who have resources that you can utilize for free, whether it's podcasts or books or articles or things like that. The work that you start to do in yourself, your kids are going to notice it. They are watching way more than we think they are. And as your kids start to notice the work that you're doing, that's going to be really encouraging for them. And as you model what it looks like to kind of deal with your pain and to start to heal from it and to be committed to that, they again will have the permission to do so themselves. And again, it's a foundation for transition into adulthood for them, where it's setting up this relationship that says we can have a good relationship, not just when you're a child, but also when you're an adult. And I'm going to give you space to be who you are fully, and we can still have relationships. So there's some resources that I think are really, really great. Several of them are free. Searchinstitute.org has lots of stuff on parenting, so many things that you can download, click on, read, share. The Cure in Parenting is a book, and the group that put it out is called True Face, and they have a podcast. And in their podcast, they literally go through the book over weeks, and so you don't even really need the book. You can just walk through that process with them. It talks about parenting the heart really in detail. It's really beautiful. And then if you do want to buy and read a book, Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of I always get tongue-tied when I say this, Gifts of Imperfection in Parenting, is excellent. Again, encouraging us to embrace being imperfect parents. And the next slide is actually a framework that I created for the work that I do in the Dignity Effect, and it's an emotional legacy framework, and it really gives you the pillars on how to build an emotional legacy that you can be proud of in your family. And you can apply these things to your parenting. You can also apply it to other relationships in your family and in your friendships as well. But if your goal is to move from this place of compliance, which I think a lot of us are very familiar with, and closer to where we're really parenting the heart of our children, these are really good pillars to start from. And there's resources, a lot of free resources too, that I'm happy to share with you all. So are there any, do y'all have any questions that I can maybe answer over the next couple minutes?
There's tons of conversation happening
Oh, great. I'm so glad.
in the chat box. Let me pull it up. Like, Naya, that was amazing. I'm just going to start at the top and just read down.
Sure.
Let's see. It says, I wrote when you were doing the fear and compliance one, I wrote that was my parent. You know, I was raised by a single parent and that was their parenting style. I felt very stifled and controlled and scared as a child. Another student wrote, same here. A student wrote, my mom still treats me like I'm 12, yet I am still setting clear boundaries. That is awesome. The reason I
Good
don't use
for you.
y'all's names is because we're recording.
No, good for you. Good for you.
Let's see. We have, my mom still sees me as her child and sometimes treats me like that child.
Yeah, that's hard.
Let's see. I heard that a lot growing up. I'm your parent, not your friend. My mom just repeated what she saw growing up from her mom.
Yep.
The scroll. My mother is deceased, but my dad has always treated me as an adult. Since the day I moved out at 17, he raised me well, so he was confident in my adulthood, which I appreciate greatly.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Here we are. My mom made me keep a journal, mostly because she didn't know how to talk to me. Black parents don't believe in playing with their kids. They're not one of our little friends. Isn't that the truth? Clearly, we all had very similar childhoods because
Yeah.
I certainly remember my parent being like, I ain't one of your friends.
Yep.
Um,
And I'm sure that posture I'm gonna just have to assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure that same posture now affects the relationship that you have with your child as an adult because they were never interested in becoming your friend. And because again, I think we forget so much that eventually the children we're parenting will be adults, and we don't parent towards that end.
Ain't that the truth? It says, that's a blessing to student. I've never met my dad, but despite my mom's flaws, I'm super grateful for her now, and her mistakes just taught me what not to do once I start raising my son. Yes, you can
Yeah,
change what you didn't like what you didn't like as a child, you can change that for your child.
absolutely.
Let's see. I have a similar life experience student. Here we go. When I was growing up, I was groomed by my grandma. I never have or feel that motherly love from my mother. The woman I am today is from my grandma. I appreciate my grandma a lot and am proud of myself today. I love my kids with all my life. I don't want them to go through the same process too. This lesson in dignity is really great relationship advice. I am humbled. Yes, it is. I really enjoyed this class. Yes, student, it really is. And yes, you have learned from her mistakes, which helps you to raise your child. We've got on here, if you parent from the heart, what would you do with a child that is always acting out? How can you find their heart?
That's a good question. Yeah, so there's the first question that if I was going to explore this one-on-one with somebody is um I would ask to clarify, right? Like when you say always acting out, tell me what they're doing and let's look at when or why they might be doing it. Because there may be some things that you aren't seeing that they are experiencing in ways that cause them to move directly to acting out. So that would be one of the first things I would ask is like, just again, about being curious. This is about inviting you into a posture of being curious and saying, okay, what's going on? Is there something I'm not noticing? Is there something that maybe I haven't asked questions about certain things because I'm making assumptions that they shouldn't be responding this way because of these other assumptions that I've made. They're safe, they're fed, they're whatever the assumptions might be. Um, and then I would talk about, I would encourage, or again, if I was doing this one-on-one, I would ask questions about um, personality. When are they not? What's the environment like, or what are they doing or engaged with when they're not acting out? And try and figure out like what are the things that are kind of getting them to that place so often or so quickly. Because some, again, we have to as parents be willing to be curious about our kids, and remember that your kids change a lot. Like the first 18 years of life, there is so much change going on. And if there's changes going on that they don't know how to deal with, then what looks like acting out may be them responding to feeling really big emotions for the first time. It may be something where you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are you upset about this? Well, their brain might not be able to process it the way yours does. And so it's a big deal to them, or it doesn't make sense to them, but the only way they know is to do this thing that we would say, it's acting out. This doesn't make sense. I'm trying to get you to stop, but you won't. Sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes when we just want them to stop, they really just need us to be present and not be so worried about the behavior in that very moment. If they're like hitting and punching and kicking people, yes, we need to stop that behavior and then work on how can I be present? Is that going to help if I'm just with you in the emotion that you're feeling? Does that help you? Sometimes my daughter is going off about something. I mean, full blown meltdown. And all she wants is for me to just hug her for a little while she cries. And then she's fine. And it blows my mind. I'm like, I don't know why this was necessary. And the only answer is that because that's what she needed at the moment. And am I willing to adjust a little bit to give that to her? And then if it continues to happen, then having some other conversations around it, get environment, personality, paying really close attention. Those are the things that I would just, as some quick answers, what I would say to something like that.
Thank you, Naya. I love that. There's a comment. I used to have a ton of anxiety as a child. Awareness creates anxiety. If my mom had offered a hug instead of a beating, I think things would be different. I totally agree with that.
Yep.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, Miss Naya, I don't want to hold you. I know you have another thing planned, but I just want to give a sincere thanks. Like, clearly this class was needed. This class was helpful. The comment section was going crazy. I've got a little comment here. It says, thanks, I learned a lot. Naya will be back for Thursday. As I said in the email, y'all, for summer semester, Monday and Thursday will be the exact same class. So if you guys feel like you want to delve into this topic again, we're going to have the same slides. Naya will be back on Thursday at 5, because clearly this has touched a good nerve. Naya, if you're comfortable, I can take a screenshot of your resource slide and send it out in my email to the students if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. Please do.
And and also the last slide.
Yeah, go for it. Not a problem.
Awesome. Well, Naya, like I said, I know you have to go. To my amazing students, y'all know how I feel about you. I love you. You're worthy. And like I said, if you want, come on back Thursday at 5. I will send y'all an email tomorrow to get diaper sizes and send you the resource slides. So I love y'all. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.